All right, so are you ready to go down the yellow brick road with us today? Because today's deep dive is all about The Wizard of Oz.
And Wicked.
Yeah, and Wicked, of course. I'm
Yeah.
so excited. We're going to be exploring how those two stories, The Wizard of Oz and Gregory Maguire's Wicked, have become such cultural cornerstones.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating.
We're going to be using excerpts from a book called The Untold Origins of Wicked. From The Wizard of Oz to Maguire's masterpiece.
Specifically, there's a chapter in there all about the cultural legacy of both stories.
Exactly. So we're going to really be diving into how these works, how these stories have just woven themselves into our cultural fabric.
It's really quite remarkable.
It really is, yeah. Like I was thinking about it the other day, and just how they influence how we think about good and evil.
Oh, for sure. And even American identity.
Exactly. Yeah, so let's start at the very beginning.
Okay.
With Baum's Oz.
Mhm.
We all know the story, right? Dorothy, the tornado, the yellow brick road,
The ruby slippers.
the ruby slippers, exactly.
Yes.
But what makes it so much more than just a children's story?
Well, I think you can really see how Baum created what I would call a uniquely American fairy tale.
Interesting.
You know, when you think about traditional fairy tales, those classic European fairy tales, they have castles and knights and a very specific kind of magic.
Right?
But Baum grounded his story in a very different landscape.
Totally.
He has Dorothy, a Kansas farm girl representing the heartland, and Oz itself reflects, I think, the more diverse and optimistic spirit of early 20th century America.
It's like he took the fairy tale and Americanized the entire concept.
Yeah, totally.
And it's so connected to that whole idea of the American dream, right?
Absolutely.
Like Dorothy, she overcomes all these obstacles to achieve the impossible. And it really reflects that core belief that anyone can succeed if they set their mind to it.
It's really that pull yourself up by your bootstraps kind of mentality.
Yeah, that's so true.
And one thing that I think is really important to remember is that this wasn't just a single story.
Oh, right.
Baum actually created a whole world, a whole Oz universe.
You wrote a ton of books.
He did, yeah, with multiple books exploring all these different corners of this fantastical, magical land.
Yeah, he was really a pioneer in crafting expansive fictional worlds.
Totally.
Something that we see so much of today.
Oh, yeah.
Like Star Wars, Harry Potter.
Yeah, all those huge franchises.
Yeah, exactly. But what's even more intriguing to me is how Oz became a symbol of resilience, especially during tough times like the Great Depression.
Totally. That phrase, there's no place like home.
Ugh, gets me every time.
Yeah, it took on a whole new meaning during those challenging periods.
It did?
It wasn't just about a physical place anymore. It resonated with this deeper yearning
Yeah.
for stability, for the comforts of home,
That's true.
the strength of community and familiarity in the face of hardship.
Totally. So we have Baum setting this incredible foundation with this rich world, these powerful themes, and then Gregory Maguire comes along with Wicked.
And flips everything we thought we knew.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so clever.
And telling the story from the Wicked Witch's perspective,
It just forces readers to confront their assumptions about good and evil.
it really does.
It asks us to look beyond the surface
Yeah.
and to really consider what are those forces that shape individuals, particularly those who feel like outsiders.
And he did this at a time when those questions of identity and feeling like an outsider
Yes.
were so potent.
Absolutely. Like the 1990s
Yeah.
had this whole cultural current of questioning the status quo.
It did.
And Elphaba's story really resonated with that.
It really, really did. It's like she gave a voice to everyone who felt misunderstood.
Totally. And you can even see it in other things that were happening culturally at the time.
Oh, like what?
Like the music scene.
Yeah.
The early 90s saw the rise of grunge music,
Yeah.
which was all about challenging that slick commercialism of the 80s.
Interesting.
And there was this growing awareness of social justice issues,
Right.
with movements like LGBTQ plus rights gaining traction.
Right.
So Wicked really tapped into this undercurrent of questioning authority.
Seeking voices outside of the mainstream.
It makes you think about how timing plays a role in a story's impact, right?
Oh, for sure.
Like, had Wicked been published, a decade earlier
Yeah.
or later, would it have had the same cultural resonance?
It's really hard to say, but I think the cultural landscape of the 90s
Yeah.
definitely played a role in its success.
That's so true.
Elphaba became this icon for those who felt ostracized, misunderstood, labeled unfairly.
Totally.
She embodied this defiance of simplistic labels, this fight for individual expression in a world that often tries to fit people into neat boxes.
Yeah, she's definitely a symbol of not conforming.
Absolutely.
And then, of course, there's the musical,
The musical.
Wicked, the musical, which took the story to a whole new level of cultural phenomena.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, come on, it's still running on Broadway.
Still going strong.
It's toured all over the world.
And those songs,
Oh my God, the music.
iconic,
It's so good.
defying gravity.
Ugh, chills.
It's practically become an anthem.
It has.
It's about breaking free from societal constraints.
Yeah.
Embracing your power, even if it means being labeled as wicked.
Exactly.
It's just so powerful.
And it's not just the lyrics.
No?
It's the soaring melody,
It
the
is.
staging,
Yeah.
the entire spectacle. It just creates this really visceral experience for the audience.
Yes. And it allows them to connect with Elphaba's emotions on this really deep level.
So true. It's fascinating how these seemingly simple stories, a
Right.
children's book,
Yeah.
and then a reimagining of it, have had such a profound and lasting impact.
It really speaks to the power of storytelling, I think.
It does.
When stories tap into those universal human experiences, those feelings of wanting to belong, of fighting for what's right, of questioning the world around us, they transcend boundaries of time and genre.
They do. So we've gone from Dorothy yearning for home.
To Elphaba defying gravity.
Right. And along the way, we've seen how these stories reflect our own desires and anxieties, our need for belonging, our struggles with societal expectations.
And our need for connection.
Exactly. But there's still so much more to uncover.
Oh, yeah.
So let's delve a little bit deeper into how both of these stories really touch on that idea of friendship and its role in these complex journeys.
Okay, I'm ready to talk friendship.
Let's do it.
So friendship,
Right.
it's such a core element in both stories.
It really is. And it's interesting how they take such different approaches to it,
Oh, for sure.
but both ultimately highlight its importance.
Totally. Like, even though the friendships look different on the surface,
Yeah.
they both emphasize how crucial those bonds are for navigating, the challenges of life.
It's like friendship is this secret weapon
Yeah.
that helps these characters face their fears and embrace who they truly are.
Absolutely. And ultimately, find their place in the world.
I love that. Okay, so let's start with The Wizard of Oz.
Okay.
Dorothy and her companions on the Yellow Brick Road.
The iconic trio.
I know, right? They're each like, I don't know, a piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, like facets of, a whole person.
What's it mean to be whole? Right.
Right, exactly.
You have courage, you have heart, you have wisdom.
And they each represent one of those.
And their bond, I think, is what really helps Dorothy face those challenges.
Oh, totally. And it's interesting because it's not just about them helping her.
Oh.
It's about them helping each other, too.
Yeah.
They all think that they're lacking something.
They do.
The Scarecrow thinks he's stupid.
He does.
The Tin Man, believes he's heartless.
Yeah.
And the Cowardly Lion, of course, thinks he has no courage.
But through that shared journey, they each discover those qualities that they thought they were missing.
It's true. And I think that's such a beautiful metaphor, don't you think?
I do, yeah.
For the power of, the different perspectives and how supporting each other's strengths can lead to this collective growth.
It's like, we don't have to be perfect on our own, right?
Totally.
We can lean on each other. We can learn from each other.
Yeah, and become more than we could be individually.
It's so true.
Right.
And then you have Wicked.
Which takes this completely different approach to friendship.
Right. It's a very different kind of friendship. It's so much more...
Complicated.
Yes, complicated, nuanced.
More realistic, I think.
Definitely. I mean, think about it. Elphaba and Glinda.
Coming from completely different backgrounds.
Different backgrounds. They have clashing personalities.
And they face all these societal pressures that try to pit them against each other.
All the time. Yeah.
But despite all of that, they form this incredible bond.
They do. It's like a bond that defies those differences, those challenges.
And it's really a testament to the power of true friendship, isn't it?
I think so, yeah.
It's not about finding someone who's exactly like you.
Right.
It's about embracing those differences and seeing the value in those contrasting perspectives.
It makes you realize how much you can grow when you have those relationships that challenge you.
Oh, totally.
The ones that push you outside of your comfort zone.
I think those are often the most meaningful relationships in our lives.
Me too.
The ones that make us question our assumptions.
Yeah.
And force us to, reevaluate our perspectives.
It's like those are the relationships that help us become better versions of ourselves.
Exactly. And Elphaba and Glinda do that for each other constantly.
They do. They challenge each other's beliefs.
Choices.
They force each other to really confront
their biases.
Their assumptions, yeah.
Their blind spots.
Totally.
Yeah.
And their friendship, I think.
Yeah.
Much like the friendship in The Wizard of Oz, becomes this crucible for growth and self-discovery.
It really does. It refines them, you know?
It does, and it's through those disagreements, those challenges.
Yeah.
I think their bond just gets stronger.
It's not about always agreeing
Cool.
or seeing eye to eye.
It's about having that deeper level of respect,
Yeah.
that understanding.
For who that other person is.
Yeah, and it makes you realize that, real friendships aren't always easy.
Oh, absolutely not.
But they're so worth the effort.
It's about having those people in your life
Yeah.
who see you for who you truly are, flaws and all.
Yes.
And they love and support you anyway.
That's it. That's what we all crave, right?
That genuine connection.
Yeah, those people who just make you feel seen.
And understood.
Even when you're not at your best.
Even when you're being, a total mess.
Exactly. But both stories also acknowledge that friendships, they can be messy.
Oh, for sure.
They require effort, compromise.
It's not all sunshine and rainbows.
Right.
It's real.
Yeah, think about Dorothy and her friends.
Yeah.
They bicker, they disagree.
They get frustrated with each other.
And Elphaba and Glinda. Their relationship, ups and downs.
Oh, for sure.
Major ones.
Constant turmoil.
But you know what? It's through those moments of conflict.
Yeah, those are the moments where the real growth happens.
I think so, yeah.
They learn to communicate more effectively. They start to understand each other's perspectives.
And they really learn to appreciate the value of those differences.
It's a good reminder that real friendships, they take work.
They do.
But they're so worth it in the end.
It's so true.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just about the individual characters,
What do you mean?
I think these friendships also reflect broader societal dynamics.
That's interesting.
Yeah, like in The Wizard of Oz.
Mm-hmm.
You have Dorothy and her group, and they're this diverse cross-section of Oz.
Yeah.
Right? And they come together to achieve this common goal.
It's like a little microcosm of a functioning society.
It is, where everyone's differences are valued.
And everyone contributes their own unique talents.
Exactly. And then in Wicked,
Yeah.
you have Elphaba and Glinda's friendship, and it's like this direct challenge to those societal norms that try to keep them apart.
Yeah.
Their bond transcends social class,
Political ideology.
even the labels of good and evil.
That society tries to impose on them.
Exactly. It's like their friendship is this act of defiance against those limiting categories.
That's really powerful.
It is. So we've talked about the power of friendship,
In navigating these complex journeys.
embracing those differences,
Yeah.
reflecting those broader societal dynamics.
Uh-huh.
But let's shift gears a bit
Okay.
and explore how these stories, even though they're set in these fantastical worlds,
Yeah.
also tap into some very real anxieties
Hmm.
about societal expectations
Interesting.
and those pressures to conform.
Okay. I'm intrigued. Let's talk about it.
So we've talked about friendship, we've talked about conformity, and how these stories, play with our anxieties about those societal pressures.
Right, and how they kind of reflect those anxieties back to us.
Exactly. I think The Wizard of Oz and Wicked, they invite us to do that,
They do.
to look beyond the surface
Question our assumptions
and embrace the complexity
of the world.
and the people in it.
And to remember that, the journey
Yeah.
is just as important as the destination.
And that along the way, we might discover something new about ourselves.
How about the power of human connection?
It's so true. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Oz.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope you've learned something new and that you'll continue to explore these questions long after this episode ends.